The Search Podcast USA Edition series is sponsored by PGC. PGC are the longest-serving employer of record in North America and can compliantly engage contractors across both the US and Canada on behalf of staffing and recruitment businesses. Our turnkey solution offers a unique access point to the largest staffing market in the world. To find out more, visit us at pgcgroup.com.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Search Podcast. I am Elliott Manning, the Managing Director of Cayman Recruitment. We are specialists in rec to rec, operating from the UK and US. I've got Jon with me today, Jon Chapman from Oliver James, based out in North Carolina, Charlotte. I'll let you take over a little bit of an introduction yourself, mate.
Yeah, cheers, Elliott. So I've been in the States since November, right November the 1st. Started working with Oliver James remotely back in May. Beforehand, I was mainly in energy commodity trading. Made the transition into technology recruitment, and made the move over in November, and really enjoying it, getting on well.
Good stuff, mate. So let's take us sort of all the way back to the beginning. Quite a few years in recruitment. You and I, spoken here and there in the past. Then, we spoke about going out to the States. Where did that idea come from?
So myself and my wife, we've always been keen on the idea of the States. I think growing up in Britain, I think the US is at the forefront of everything we do. And I think I've always loved the American culture. And we've always spoke about going out to the States to work and live. But in the past, we've never actually really done much about it. And so we made the decision last year to actually put a plan into action. Yeah. And here we are.
So you were looking at multiple locations. I guess where, how, what, why, what kind of put you, I suppose, in a position to choose where you wanted to go to, having not even potentially been to all these places?
Yeah, so I like the idea of Charlotte because I was doing research and getting into technology was incredibly important to me. And Charlotte, I believe it's twice the growth rate as the average US city for their technology hub, the technology pool of candidates. And I think it's just got some real growth potential. When you look around the city now, everywhere you look, there's cranes, there's apartments, there's buildings going up, and I just think it's got a lot more growth opportunities than a lot of the other cities that were on offer.
I mean, I spoke to a lot of recruiters over the years, and more so the last year or two with the whole hype of the US. I mean, the first time and I've heard this, and what you've mentioned to me is, you've done the research, you looked into the locations, states of where you wanted to be. I mean, what research did you, apart from finding out the market and where you wanted to, I suppose, follow the trend of, did you look at taxes? Did you look at the kind of like the culture, the lifestyle, the weather? Did you look at the kind of the exactly what businesses were based in certain locations? What else did you look into?
Yeah. So I looked at the businesses. I mean, for example, Charlotte, it's the second biggest financial centre in the US after New York. So in Charlotte, you've got lots of Tourist Bank, Fifth Third, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, as well as you've got some huge retail clients that have moved into to Charlotte, such as Lowe's. So it seems to be an area that everyone seems to be moving into, away from the traditional major cities that we would normally spring to mind. So we've got a fantastic, diverse range of clients here to go at.
Yeah,
also, weather, we looked at the full package that we were going to get, Southern City, that was incredibly appealing. And I was speaking to a few people as well, done some research before I come out, and it's still got that small town feel, but in a city. So I think that was important to us. So I wasn't, although I've loved New York, I've been at several occasions before, I think I wasn't entirely comfortable about potentially moving to somewhere big like New York or Houston. I just think it's got that more of a town feel that will allow for a smoother transition.
Yeah, I think when you and I spoke, you was like, definitely not New York, definitely not that city kind of place. You know, it just wasn't for you.
Yeah.
And every location that you and I discussed to an extent were all similar in their ways. You know, the hell we had the weather, that was for sure. But ultimately, you know, it was more just kind of like a lifestyle choice of different cultures that ultimately appeal to you more so than
For
being
sure.
in the city kind of vibe.
For sure.
So you took the role with OJ, started working from them in London. Did you make a trip over to the States during that period of transition at all?
No, I didn't at all. No, I
Yeah,
yeah, as I say, I've got started working with OJ back in May, moved over in November. In between time, we had so much to sort out logistically, visas, the actual selling house items, etc. And yeah, I think it just yeah, didn't have the chance to actually get
yeah.
over. So
No,
yeah,
fair
we
play
went
to
in
you.
blind a little bit, but
No, look,
yeah.
hats off to you. You know, it doesn't happen often enough, but you've done all the research into it beforehand, and obviously you spoke and worked with the guys that were there anyway. So, you know, I'm
Mm.
sure there was a lot to learn from them. How did you do any US recruitment from the UK before? Did you get a feel for the market over there?
We did, yeah. So where I was in energy and commodity trading, we did some work with some clients in Houston. So I got a little bit of exposure to the US market.
Yeah,
But not huge amounts. I mean, we were talking relatively small volumes. OJ, they prepared me incredibly well. So I had discussions with their attorneys, in-depth discussions, just advice from those guys.
is that for the interview
Um,
when they say they prepared you? You mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Prepare for the
What was that
interview.
like?
Again, yeah, I was up all night worried about it. I arrived on the day, and you go into a big reception room and you're waiting for your ticket to be called out. Mine was actually done and dusted within 5 minutes. So I arrived, got my ticket, went to the window, um, effectively checked in, and then come back out, waiting another 5, 10 minutes, and then back for the proper interview. I think there's about 3 or 4 questions that they asked, and then of course gave the best answers I could, and yeah, he confirmed my visa had been accepted there and then. So it's all a lot more seamless than I thought it would
They
be.
change those questions, do you reckon, every time someone goes in that room?
Possibly, possibly. I think they're pretty standard.
Yeah.
The questions that were asked were pretty much what I was anticipating,
You're
what I
allowed
was
to
told
share
or
what one of
reminded.
them might be.
Yeah, for example, they asked what your base salary is going to be when you're going over. They also asked, whether you have any direct reports into you,
Yeah.
whether there's any supervisory elements, how long I've been working in recruitment for.
Yeah.
Those are the questions that stand out. Those are what I can remember, and yeah,
Yeah. Do you
and
feel like you built yourself up to the point where you know you're going into this room and you're going to be quizzed for an hour on everything and you've got to
yeah.
know all this stuff, right?
Yeah, I knew what to expect. I knew it was going to be you're up against the window, a guy in a cubicle, just going to be asking a few questions. But yeah, the night before, I was reading through notes, going through my resume again. I think I did overthink it, but looking back, I was well prepared. And
Good.
it's like anything, you expect the worst, and
Yeah.
yeah, plan as well as you can.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to know. I've not asked many people about it, and yeah, it's good to know. How long do you reckon it took you to settle once you hit the ground over in the States and find your feet, get used to? Because I had a guy on this recently, Hayden, and it took some time for him to get the apartment and for himself sorted
Mm,
out. Learn that he couldn't get an apartment because he didn't have any credit, and then he could, then
mm.
he had to figure out all of taxes and insurances, and even go and finding food shopping. How did you find that?
Yeah, again, OJ, they prepared us incredibly well. So we knew what to expect. I knew full well about the fact that I'll be coming over starting with zero credit history. So we actually found an apartment before we arrived. we couldn't. We were able to reserve it. We couldn't do the full agreement until we'd actually got a social security number. But OJ put us up in an Airbnb for 2 weeks, which
Nice.
gave us ample time to get our social security numbers, and then we could then get the agreement fully executed whilst we were over. So we did actually find somewhere before we arrived.
Amazing. Fun.
We're settling in incredibly well. I mean, I think we've been here now 14, 15 weeks. I think the biggest hurdle that I faced is not having a car. I think the laws differ from state to state. I believe it might be different in Florida, but in North Carolina, you can't buy a car until you've got the North Carolina driving license. So I've actually got my test booked in next month rather. But that's the biggest hurdle, because you do need to be able to drive really in Charlotte. But if anyone was thinking of moving over, I'd 100% recommend coming over. But that is one thing just to bear in mind. Make sure you.
Yeah, because when you look at Charlotte on a map, it's such a small city that I'm assuming, just like other states, most of the activities and the life that you would lead isn't going to be within that little city. It's going to be outside of it. So to get around,
absolutely,
you need to be mindful. And do you know what? I don't even think of things like that. It's mad. Yeah, I guess that's probably the same like with like Austin in Texas. I reckon it's probably similar to that, and other locations. And LA as well. I believe at the same time as you're not necessarily going to be right in the middle of it. If you're outside of it, you need to get about. Fair play. That's a really good point.
But yeah, as I say, I think that's the only slight negative, but everything else absolutely fantastic.
Amazing. And have you had enough time to explore yet? Have you been outside of North Carolina since you've been there?
We haven't. I mean, we've taken a few day trips upstate, so probably an hour or so out of Charlotte, hiring cars at weekends. But we've not actually managed to go upstate. I think that's going to be that plan for the next in the next couple of months. I think we've probably got a trip planned to Tennessee, and I think down to South Carolina for a weekend. Yes. So
got access to all these places now that
absolutely.
Beats the plane to Marbella and to go into to France for the weekend. Like you get to travel to these really cool places that not many people do. So look, you've done an incredible job, mate. You've moved over there. You've gone to a city that I have a couple of members that work for me over there, and they absolutely love it. I'm due to come out there next month, and but a lot of recruiters that are trying to get over to the States, they always look at the main hubs, as mentioned, the LA, New York, Miami, Austin, they're not seeing the benefits. And you've clearly stated that from the research as why Charlotte and North Carolina is a good place to be. So do you have any advice for those that are thinking about going over to the US?
Yeah, do everything you possibly can to find an apartment before you come out. Yeah. I think it is possible. I think, of course, before you can do anything, before you can fully execute any agreements, you've got to have your social security. So I'll just say do everything you can to get a place sorted before you come. Get driving as quickly as you possibly can. Hire cars at weekends, because I think, spoken to a few people, they put off driving and then they're getting slightly what's the word? I think a bit sceptical about starting to drive over here, and I think they're a little bit scared about getting started there. So I think accommodation, getting the cars, I think they're the two main hurdles that I think they should get sorted before you, as soon as possible. Other than that, I think it's just, I think there's always going to be reasons why, reasons to possibly put you off of a move. But I'd urge someone that, if it's something that you've always thought about doing, just do it. You wouldn't regret coming out into the States. I think it's certainly got a lot more scope to progress than the London market, as an example. So,
look, I mean, most people pretty much all of them that have gone over there have never said anything otherwise, and if you start thinking of reasons not to do it and thinking of reasons that, Yeah, look, I think for most recruiters and people, they're probably scared of the fact that it's not near their friends and family, and they're going to be on their own, and it's different. But if that's the reason why you wouldn't go over there, in my opinion, then it's the wrong reason. And I don't think you're selfish enough to do what you want to do, as you just said, if that's what you've always been thinking of.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So really important. But no, listen, matey, I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for sharing
pleasure.
that information. You've really shared some stuff that's no one's put out there that I think is really important for those that are making the move, need to listen to. If anyone wants to or is moving over to Charlotte and has any questions, I'll tell them to reach out to you. Ask away.
Yeah.
Feel free to let me know, and I'll put an intro in place.
It'd be a pleasure.
I wish you the best of luck with the role with OJ. They're a fantastic business, have done unbelievably well in the US itself. You're one of a few that have gone over there through them and have spoke very highly of the process and the preparation they put into play. Wish you all the best for the future, Jon, and hopefully when I'm out there next month, we'll grab a beer.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks, Elliott.
Thank you so much, mate.